Hey, back to part two with Ingrid Buday. Continue our
Hey,
conversation, my friend. Go ahead.
no more noise, Toronto.
No ma-
Um, so we worked together. So Toronto Noise Coalition and I, we covered every single public consultation. We did follow-up sessions, and then what we did was we created email templates for people to email the city, and that was really successful. So the city got 2,200
Oh,
emails.
nice. Wow, that's great.
Nice, yeah, and that was all by October 15th. So that was just pretty nutty, I have to say. And then after that, it was like, okay, so what's going to happen next? And what they announced was that initially the noise bylaws were going to be reviewed by the Economic and Community Development Committee on November 28th. But due to the resounding feedback and involvement from the public, they pushed it to January 11th.
Oh, wow.
So that bought me a little bit more time.
I think they're
But
overwhelmed by the response, eh?
they were. And the other thing was that they mentioned that they wanted to reach out to stakeholders. And this is one of the things, like with motor vehicles, the city can only enforce the bylaws on stationary vehicles. The city cannot stop a moving vehicle. So that's why the 311 requests for moving vehicles go from the city, they're closed, and then they tell you to contact the police. So I
Okay.
asked them at the beginning of the motor vehicle noise public consultation, I said, have you talked with the police? Because clearly you guys are partners. The city has the sound level meters and the police stop the vehicles so that the sound level meters can be tested. Have you talked with them?
I was thinking of this. I
Not
was thinking
yet.
of this. I was thinking of this comedy sketch when you talk in the first interview, but you got to call the police to catch him. So here in Victoria Park, they have speeding all night, like every night, racing 4 o'clock. So here, okay, I gotta call the police. I'm at the corner of my cell phone. You gotta call the police. I gotta call the police. Zoom. I gotta call the police. You're trying to catch up with the police, right? And then he's like, buddy, quick call here. Well, they're speeding all the time back and forth. So what's the point of calling the police? They're not gonna respond quick enough. It's not an emergency. They got other
Yeah,
things. Yeah, it's not an
yeah.
emergency. Yeah.
So that's where prevention really comes in. And so what I've been doing in the meantime was I've been deputing for the night economy, which you saw. And I've been working on the media campaign. So I'm so thankful because people who donated, so I'm working with the Small Change Fund so that people can donate and get a charitable tax receipt. And I'd never done this before. So I reached out and, asking for money's not easy, but
Yes.
you got to do it. I've been
Yeah.
doing most of this scared most of the time. I just go, it's got to be done. So Ingrid, get over yourself and do it.
So are you registered as a charity or what?
No, I'm not. This is just a grassroots
Yeah.
organization. No More Noise is a grassroots organization. I created Datensaft as
Yeah.
a pet project that might turn into something, but we'll see. Datensaft actually is German for Daten is data and Saft is juice. So it's data juice
Hmm.
is my company name because I want to sip the data like what I've got back here out of the city and have people contribute crowdsourced information.
I have to
Um,
ask you, are you
so
amazed? Are you amazed that people are responding with all the stuff going on that you started and creating, and now they're getting back to you? Like, just
It's wild. It's
yeah,
wild, Bill.
yeah, it's
You know,
nice.
I've got over $5,000 in donations, and I had somebody contribute, and
Wow.
I don't it's actually going to show up on the website due to technical stuff. But somebody donated $3,000 from the family foundation. So I've got, let's just say, $7,000 to
Yeah.
spend on a media campaign. And I just had a call this morning to figure out how we're going to best use that money to get out of the echo chamber. We need to influence political decision makers, but we also need to influence people to get engaged. There's so much apathy. There's so much, I've called 311 and nothing's happened. There's no point. The city's not going to do anything. Well, they certainly won't do anything if we don't do anything.
Yeah.
So change happens when somebody does something. You're doing something, I'm doing something. All of the other people on your podcast
Yeah,
who
yeah.
I had a quick
I
look
was gonna
at,
ask.
they're all
I
doing
was,
something.
I was gonna ask you. Have you thought of any pamphlets like going in the mail, like you always get stuff in the mail, but just talk about noise or whatever it said.
Yeah,
Like
haven't looked.
brochures that people let people aware, educate people out there, like noise thing and all that. Like your graphs, like this decibel affects your child's hearing, whatever, certain parts of the day. People like start reading, go, oh, I never thought that noise. Yeah, you're right. And then maybe they'll click on them, and then in the future, it'll hit them and it'll respond, like one thing leads to another, right? Well, like you, like
Yeah,
how you started, right? The brochure,
yeah,
I don't know how much brochures cost. I know the Canada Post has a system of distributing them all where you get a sort of deal. If you get a good like would this be also like a good tax incentive for getting your for tax write off, whatever. I don't know if there's any what bracket would fall under for city purposes or giving back to the. Oh, you get stuff for political campaigns and city doing stuff for the city or donations to functions. But as for noise, I don't know if that'd be covered or something new or what. But that'd be kind of neat to see, you know.
Yeah, it would be neat to see, and we need to put noise on the radar. Noise is urban noise is the #2 urban environmental health hazard according to the World Health Organization. The first one is air pollution. We have to breathe, so air pollution's #1, and it's been around and everywhere. But the thing is, what we're learning about noise is we cannot close our ears, and our bodies can't stop listening.
You talking about
So
noise pollution. I was talking about. I was the other day driving a diesel truck or a car in front of me, and I turned my vents to recycle inside, like within, because it just stinks, right? The diesels are just. I don't know. I don't think diesels should be around anymore. That's what the way I believe. I think they should be gone. You know, they're worse smelling than propane and sorry, propane's worse than diesel and then gas for me. Yeah, propane I just can't
uh,
stand. I can't stand propane, the smell of trucks, just the raunchy stuff. I hate it. You know.
yeah. Well, I think we've all kind of had it a little bit with the old way of doing things. I
Yeah.
used to love the smell of gas.
You
I
do
just
that?
think it was great, but I mean, this was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Now I smell it and it's like, holy smokes, that's killing our planet.
Yeah.
This is the one planet we can live on, and I've been riding my bike forever because I kept saying I should be getting money back for riding my bike because I'm saving the healthcare system, I'm saving the planet, and I'm getting good exercise.
That's a good incentive,
Um,
getting money back for riding your bike and creating an annual getting rid of the toxicity. I was gonna ask you a question. You know about the therm coming into Ontario place. They want to bring Ontario. So imagine that if that gets passed, which I hope they don't, can you imagine that noise is gonna happen there?
Oh, and did you see that they are actually, the province specifically said that the noise bylaws of the city of Toronto will not be applied to Ontario
I
Place
heard about that. Yeah. Why is that? It doesn't make
because
any
they want
sense.
Live Nation to be as loud as they freaking want. And that
Yeah.
will actually, so that will impact Toronto Island. That'll
Yeah.
impact the harborfront. That'll impact Humber Bay Shores. That will impact the island itself. And
Imagine people rocking and taking their bikes for how many years doing this by Ontario Place. Now you've got this whole thing built up. So instead of walking casual, you're gonna like walk really fast or bike fast to get away from the noise. You know,
oh, absolutely. And that will impact Liberty Village. Like it will impact
and
hundreds of
that'll
thousands of
create more
people.
stress in your system because you just want to get away from it. They're not looking at the long term plan. I don't think it's gonna be a big mistake bringing this in. You know.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. I ride by there fairly often, and it's and now the black wall of shame and all of that. And that's just where again we are prioritizing corporate profits over public.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Profit over people's personal safety and height. Well, they want to move on. They want to move to the science center, and they're going to build condos there. Can you imagine the people living there all those years, settle in, and like that's going to go on, like, you know, with the whole zoning and all that. Oh my gosh.
No, and a gentleman, his name is Todd Irving, and he's doing a walk this weekend on the trees that are in at the science center, or yeah, at the science center. And he posted some pictures, and there's beautiful trees that they saved when they built it.
Yeah.
And it's like if they destroy that, they're destroying that whole ecosystem. There was
Thank you
deer
for mentioning
traps.
that because yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I remember watching the surveys on the guy that built it. He built it in a way that it would eventually not evolve, but grow with the forestry around it, and that's the way it is. You break up that system, people don't realize that thing it's mixed with the environment, the forestry there, like you said, the way it's built. But you take that away, even the structure you take away alone, that's going to affect the whole ecosystem there, right there. That's going to affect people's health. No.
Yeah, because in between those two buildings is a ravine. Well, in that ravine, you might actually get one of the quietest spots in Toronto because of the protection of the buildings.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if you take those buildings away and you suddenly build condos there, that is inviting all of that soundscape into that place. So when you talk about the effect of wildlife, songbirds, wild birds, animals and deer, all of them. So there's a really great book. I'm just going to grab it. You might like it too. It's actually called Sounds. Can it come up on the screen?
Pull it back a bit, maybe.
There
Okay,
we go.
so
Get it?
sounds like okay, I've heard about this. Karen Baker. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, it is great. It talks about ultrasound, infrasound, and how animals hear. Like we have the audacity to think, well, because we can't hear it, no,
they can.
nothing else is
No, it's not
nothing
true.
else applies.
No,
Give break, when they talk about bats and echolocation, that's all high frequency. Whales communicate across the Pacific Basin
Yeah.
in low frequency. There's certain thermoclines in the ocean that are like like audio networks, and
Yeah.
so they can be, I don't know, I'm just going to make an
There's,
example,
there's,
they could
and
be off of.
there's no surveys. I can find. I've looked into. There's no surveys done about the after effects of building these structures here, how it's going to affect nature. Well, they did a few surveys. The city will release some of the stuff. I've checked into it, but there's not been any surveys like things that come like things after the effects of building this, taking those trees away from Ontario Place, all that, the canopy space, the lack of
Yeah.
trees and all. But if there's not, there should be surveys. There should be. I don't know why they do. I asked them, get a court order, put a stop to this, and say we want surveys done to see how it's going to affect people's health. Like example, people walking by this area, construction and all that stuff.
Absolutely. But they've exempted themselves from environmental assessment.
Yeah, what
For the
I would
commercial.
did you go to the Ontario Place for All back in the spring? They had the third people
No.
there. No, I was there. They had the third people in. They had people from city staff, and I asked the question, "Have you done enough surveys?" And the lady said there will be some plant life that or wildlife that will be destroyed. We take that account. I mean, what do you mean you take that account? What does that mean? It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Child in there, sorry, that may be not very good to say.
But the
But that's the
thing,
thing. If it
nature
doesn't
partly.
affect them, they don't care.
I think nature's secondary. Nature sustains all of us.
All of us. Absolutely, absolutely. So building codes, our developers, when they build a building, they have a noise study, and that noise study is what the building emits into the environment. So HVAC systems, that kind of thing. The thing is that they don't study is when you've got one building up and then you build another building right across the street from it,
Yep.
this old building is suddenly getting way more noise. And I had somebody actually text me on the Facebook group, and they live out so Humber Bay Shores is a really dense area, and these people live north of the Gardiner in a house. And they said their place is louder because of all the noise reflecting off the buildings in
Yeah.
Humber Bay Shores going into their single family residential area. They're like, it is distinctly louder. On a sound level meter, like what I've got here, that may not actually show up in a measurement because these measurements are generally you get the highest level of sound. You don't get all these other little nuances underneath, which is why when I looked at the initial how loud is too loud report, and I saw their heat maps. So they show a picture of Toronto, and they show that the Gardiner and the DVP 401 is orange to red, which is 80 to 100 decibels over a course of 24 hours. But they didn't show these individual noise spikes. And I'm like, I'm not hearing 80 to 90 decibels all the time. I'm hearing individual accelerations. And then that is those intermittent noise spikes that I've really started to study because they don't show up and they're not talked about. But when you've got one building here and then another building goes up and you've got these intermittent noise spikes, I was on a building where I was on the 5th, the 14th, and the 20th floors. The decibel level was exactly the same on the 20th floor as it was on the 5th.
Funny you mentioned reflective. We said this in the military. Reflective imagery, reflective communication. Yeah, buildings like you said, like down, even like when you go on the Gardner, they have these condos there, right? I remember as a kid drive. When you go there, you can feel that sound. Like we got the windows down, you can feel that sound vibrating through the windows. Before they weren't there, there was nothing all clear. Well, people don't realize it because you got the radio on, but you turn the radio off, just like that. Like when I was on the ship in the military, we had a thing called radar silence, right? So we're in like training. So the whole ship goes in complete silence because of training, because you can't make one noise. I used to love it because you could make one noise whatsoever. You have to keep everything low lights and all this stuff. I said, I said, I wish I could have 24 hours a day. It's so great for my ears, it's just perfect. We should have,
and
we
your
should have,
adrenaline system.
they have that thing called Lights Out Toronto every year or whatever. Around the world they do this thing Lights Out. We should do a thing for noise. What do you think?
Absolutely. Actually had a friend suggest that, and he was saying Canada Day, that we should just, stop traffic on Canada Day. And, fireworks are a whole separate ball of wax.
Yeah, I was getting to that one.
Right. But it's one of those things where imagine if we could actually feel it. And so this is where I'm blessed in that I have the ability to leave the city, and I need to leave about once a month, and I go to provincial parks. I
Yeah,
go and
I love
stay in
yeah. Yeah.
I stay in camp cabins, and those camp cabins are just amazing little pieces, amazing little sanctuaries, and I go there so I can sleep with the window open and actually, sleep. And when I here at home, I sleep maybe 6, 7 hours a night, and even then it's generally quite fragmented. But there, I get there and I sleep 10 hours for 3 days straight,
That's nice.
you know,
Yeah,
because
there's only
that's just the rest my body needs.
you need that. There's only I just thought there's only one time every year the city goes quiet for 2 minutes during Remembrance Day parade. Right? If
Yeah.
you're the TTC stops their vehicles, people quiet, they bow down, do a prayer. That's the only time in the city you're quiet for 2 minutes, and that's it. That's
Yeah.
2 minutes of quiet, and when I'm downtown watching the parade, you really feel that. You
Yeah.
feel that dampening, less noise,
Yeah.
whatever. Just that
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Well, I think we kind of got that a little bit in those first few months of COVID,
Yeah,
because
yeah. The
when the
quietness. Yeah.
earth actually moved less. It's on
Yes.
the Richter scales, that the earth moved less. And that's how much we impact the big globe called the
Wow.
earth, which is incredible. But that's where I think a lot of people kind of went, wow, I can actually hear birds. I actually feel better. What's all this about, And then that's when I really got twigged to noise, especially vehicle noise, because I was woken up by a motorcycle at 3:30 in the morning, and I timed it on my watch, and I could hear that sucker for about 7 kilometers away.
Oh my
And I
God.
was like, wow. So that is one vehicle in my soundscape right now. What happens when there's thousands of them? And that's where now we've changed. We work from home. We are, we're a little, we kind of had that little blip of, oh, I actually think like maybe cities could be quieter. But then we've literally come back way the other way, more vehicles on our streets, improper mufflers all over the place,
I was
construction 24/7.
I went down to for a cycle Toronto. Have you met Alison Stewart?
Oh yeah, she's lovely.
It's like,
Yep.
yeah, a nice lady. I went down for like they had a survey for the mayor candidates. So I went down for the survey, it was a celebration. But before that, I went down there, and I'm Catholic, so I watch mass when I can, or on TV or home. So this is funny. I had an hour before this thing started the event. So I was down on Bay, right before behind City Hall. There's a little greenery there. So I was there watching mass, literally, for half an hour, and it was the amount of noise, the constructions, city trucks going by and the traffic, just like I had it on full. That was just deafening. I mean, I heard the mass, but it was so loud, right? Just to hear this audio thing for half an hour, right? And it was just nonstop half an hour. This just killed me. I was like,
Yeah.
I was standing like, oh my gosh, this is nuts. I can't hear massive beat. It's just in one
Yeah.
little corner, And no
Yeah.
matter where you go in the city, it's like that. It's all like that.
It is. And so much of it is unnecessary and preventable. And I think that's the thing that I really want to get to is bylaws are great,
Yeah.
but you need to have enforcement of them. And then enforcement is after the bylaw. We need to have prevention. So back to the city inspecting, shops, but also something. So apparently it's called, uh, and I just blanked on the name, Drive Ontario. So they took away Drive Clean for passenger cars,
Mhm.
but not for commercial vehicles. And they realized that some tweaks needed to be made. So there's a new program coming out where they are looking at doing safety and emissions inspections for commercial vehicles.
Oh, good.
And this is supposed to start this year. But I was on Young and north of Eglinton, kind of, I think up in your area, and there was two dump trucks. No, it was a dump truck and then a cement mixer. And I swear those pipes were just right out of the engine. And it was just like, and those are really loud. And they use emergency brakes off of where I live all the time at 3 a.m. And it's like, and there's actually a sign that says, please avoid use of engine brakes. So there's a culture that we now have in the car culture where they're saying, hey, you want to get attention, put an aggressive
But
exhaust note, and so they're amplifying making noise. And there was
yeah.
a really interesting article about why people make noise. And it's kind of a little nasty because they're saying some of these people are making the noise to inflict pain on others.
Yeah, because they enjoyed it. They like it. I see that. Yeah, they just rub them over and all that. I was gonna ask you, what's your opinion about subways? Like
Sorry,
I'm
my what?
subways, the sound of subways and all. I live in
Oh
Montreal.
yeah.
Well, Montreal, I live there so quick because they have their wheels are rubber. Like over here, our wheels are not made of rubber. They're metal and all. That's why that's where you get all the grinding noise. Like just when you be a habitual subway rider. Like I used to take a TTC for an hour and a half each way, and I used to know which station would make the most noise, like the screeching and all.
Yep. And it's preventable. And people that, like I was in Woodbine there where they have a short turn and they don't grind down the tracks. And these
No,
poor people were and those are really high
yeah, yeah.
screeching, like nails on the chalkboard kind of thing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, these people must be losing their marbles.
And there's houses beside there. They must do this every day. I'm like, oh, gosh.
And the thought that we get used to it, no, we don't.
No,
Our bodies are made to listen. That's why alarm clocks work.
yeah,
So putting this and I mean, I was going to draw the analogy to the trucker convoy back in Ottawa, right? Like they monopolized the area through sound. And
yeah.
what restored equity in enforcing the noise bylaw. That's how important it is.
It was
And
so bad.
some people could not leave. We had a friend come and stay with us because he was like, I'm losing my mind. I
Yeah,
can't go shopping. I
yeah.
can't sleep. I can't think. And he's lucky he could leave. We had a place for him, but other people don't.
No, they
And
were like 24
oh,
hours of the noise just constantly going on and making. Oh yeah, I heard. I know people.
intentional. And it's
Yeah,
one thing when we have no control over something because air is public space.
yeah.
So somebody makes a noise. I mean, no matter how much window covering, no matter what we have, noise comes through.
And
Not
it wasn't
all.
just. It was just not just one person. It was like a whole conglomerate of people doing this on purpose. Yeah, no, I had people in Ottawa. They just said, "I can't even wake up. I can't even go to sleep." Because their house or apartment just down the road. And like I said, with buildings, the reflective sound within buildings. Just
Oh
ridiculous.
yeah. And then you have to go shopping and you get physically, verbally abused. Like it was just a terrible situation. And I think that's where we just need to. A friend of mine, her name is Claire Kumar, and she works on creating a more sensitive environment or a more, I'm forgetting her slogan right now, but it's a more tender world. And the idea of having empathy for people and recognizing that we're not all the same, but that doesn't mean. So the other thing that she really helped me understand is that rather than saying that people have a diagnosis or they're this or they're that, how about just expanding the spectrum of normal?
Yeah.
That some of us, like you're hearing, you're on this end of the spectrum. Probably other people are on the other end of the spectrum, but it's all normal. It's okay. And that we need to
Okay. Yeah.
design spaces that accommodate for how different we are. We are not robots. And we really just need to get to a place where we can have more empathy. But I don't think we can have more empathy if we're chronically tired. If so, noise creates increased anxiety, increased depression, chronic sleep disturbance. Then when we actually hear the intermittent noise spikes like I have behind me, that creates a stress response, which is we have no control over it. It's like blinking. It just happens in our body, which creates a thickening of our arteries, which can lead to heart attacks, which can lead to strokes. Like the impacts of noise are well understood.
It's a good point you made. I was going to ask you about that point. Have they have any proven recorded history of where noise impacts the health in certain categories, like a heart, blood pressure? Have they have that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, we now have longitudinal studies where they have managed to, and that's where Tor Oyamo is just an amazing resource, and I'm very thankful for him. But that's where they have these longitudinal studies now. We didn't have this before. Air pollution's been studied a long time. We can see it. We know when it's a smoggy day, but air pollution we can't see. So
Yeah.
it's been one of those harder things to study. But now, as he says, the studies have been done. And if the World Health Organization declares it the #2 urban health hazard, and that it's an issue globally now, we really just need to start paying attention to it. The studies are done. We know it. The thing is that we've been prioritizing corporate profit and expediency over our public health. And if we don't have our health, we've got nothing. We can't buy our health and we can't buy time.
And also, you mentioned earlier, we talked about earlier about nature. Nature is also the biggest thing too. Not just us being affected. Nature gets affected by weather cycle of life, the way affected by man-made noise, when you see them moving out of the certain systems. I mean, I don't think there's any proper studies about that. Like say like a example, a colony of ants or something, that noise affects them, that they move their system and how they affect the economy with their moving and their feeding and passing on. That affects that area. And then you see a change in that area. And they haven't made any studies about that. I like to see that actually, just to
Yeah,
see how nature's affected and how nature's movements, because of man's reaction to the noise and pollution, have changed their way of working with the ecosystem, and that's affecting us because it comes back to us eventually.
it comes to us to with biodiversity. There are very well there's good studies on that. So one of the studies was that in a environment, in a field somewhere, what they did was they played sounds. And so when it was quiet, everything was normal. That was the control. Then they played car sounds and the animals moved away. And then they played people sounds and animals moved away. So when you look at it, and I mean, ants is one thing, but when you think about our fish and our underwater populations, they're saying that sometimes whales and dolphins are breached. They're beaching themselves because they've lost their major pod. They've lost their group. They are an extremely connected species. And the reason why is because our oceans are so bloody loud.
Yeah, yeah.
And sound travels further and faster underwater than in air. Like, who would have thought?
But we underestimate the nature and the whales, especially whales and their intelligence and all. We still learn from. Yeah, I'm gonna tell my favorite whales. I can tell my favorite whale story quickly. When I was in BC posting military, I was on a ship on Terra Nova. So we used to go down and we have to fix this nuclear weapon called an ASROC. So we five of us going down the bottom of the ship. You have to redo it or whatever. So I was there in my scuba gear, and there's five of us. They all go for lunch. I had to hang out and still do something. I said, "You guys go ahead. I'll do my thing." And I also have a thing for nature, especially water and whales. So I was thinking of that. I tell the story every day. At that point, I was thinking, in the water by the ship. I said, just a quick. I said, "Oh, I'd love to touch a whale," and just like right there, this killer whale, orca, because that's in BC, came out of nowhere, just right up there, and I'm like freaking out, right? My eyes are popping. I'm like scared shitless, see my language. I'm going, okay, I want to touch you. I said, I'm only get one chance. If it's gonna kill me, but I one chance. So it just happened as my train of thought. So I put my hand up and I just touched it really lightly, and it just went gone. Never thought again. I mean, all these guys on my Navy guys on the ship, they had seen all this, so they had the weapons out ready to kill the whale. That time's gonna eat me, or yeah, it's like, oh no, I'm okay, guys, okay. It's one of my favorite whale stories. I can't explain to this day how that happened. It just kind of train of thought. I wish I could touch a whale. Bang, it was right there, like that. I mean, they were in the area, whales, in the area in BC in Victoria, yeah. So I'm just get back with that whale story. I'm just saying we don't know so much. There's so much we don't know about nature. We're still learning. You know.
And we've looked at it through the lens of what we can understand is therefore what they can understand.
Yeah.
And the answer is no. Like we used to. So this book, that Sounds of Life, super, super interesting because they talk about that perspective that we've come from. And, they were saying, well, when we were teaching, I think it was Bobo, the chimpanzee, where they were teaching it sign language to speak. And it's like, why are we teaching it our language? How about understanding how they speak to one another?
I thought Bo was. I also actually watched Bo. I said Bo heard just humoring the stupid humans. I'll just do what you want.
Way smarter than us.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
We're putting human conditions on animals' perceptions, and that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
We're limiting our views on how they view things. I mean, they're eerie for us.
Absolutely. And one of the other things that we really limit ourselves is with understanding how other people, how someone who's blind, how someone who's had an acquired brain injury. I saw that you had Bob Murphy on.
Oh,
Bob
yeah,
Murphy,
yeah. Great guy.
Like how he has to navigate sound
Yeah.
because of the acquired brain injury. I didn't know that there was such a thing until I met Bob. I thought it was strokes or this and that. No, people can, and so it affects their balance, it affects their memory, it affects, and so a friend of mine, I don't know if you got to see the hot doc yet of Do You Hear What I Hear? It's now streaming on CBC Gem.
No, okay, I'll
send you a link to it, but
okay, cool.
It's about my friend Daniela, who's blind,
Okay.
and how she navigates the city having to listen to it. And if she goes by like construction, I said, what's the worst? Construction, because it's constant, it's pounding, it's those engines you were talking about, muffles everything, muffles pedestrian signals, muffles other vehicles. And I mean, I'm all for micromobility, but like those stand-up scooters and stuff like that, people aren't navigating, they're thinking that everybody can see them.
You talking about the
Not
electric
everybody can
electric
see
scooters or
them.
the motor ones?
Any one of those. So that I'm thinking of the stand-up kick scooters.
Yeah.
But still, it is. We need to design our roads and design our mobility so that everyone can hear them. And my standard for that is 55 decibels, because 55 decibels is when health impacts occur from noise.
Mhm.
So let's make sure. And I mean, some Teslas and electric vehicles now have the for forwards and backwards and
Yeah,
stuff.
that kills me.
Those need to be in place for these other vehicles, so that we actually.
Well, even all commercial vehicles, a lot of commercial vehicles have like garbage trucks, all that, that beep beep noise,
Yeah, and that drives a lot of people crazy. So apparently there's it's called broadband sirens that are lower in frequency. And I remember hearing a city truck had one of those, and it kind of sounds like it
Yeah.
sort of sounds like a duck in a way. But that, if you've got garbage trucks using that, then that would be less disturbing for people, even though they'll still get woken up by the clamor. But there's lots of vehicles that back up with those beepers. But apparently that's regulated by the province,
Yeah,
not
it
the
is.
city.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So we need to get the province, who again is, sending us crickets.
I found that I was find that funny, these noises when like a garbage truck, like it make a beep beep beep. I feel like funny. Don't you know you're backing out? You need somebody to remind you. Like what? It's a standard. I was a good question. Why did you even put that in place? I mean, it hasn't that long to have that, right? It's not like it's been around for 50 years, has it? Like that whole standard.
I'm, I'm not sure, but noise typically has been studied the most in occupational health and safety. It is to protect the employer from liability,
Mhm.
so that the employees don't have hearing loss. That's why you have these dose meters and stuff like that are right by the ears, so they can measure how much sound the ear is having. But once you get off the construction site and onto public roads, who
Yeah,
protects the public?
yeah.
I was filming a garbage truck the other day just because I wanted to see what kind of happened. And the guy was being guided up the alley, up the laneway by a worker. But then as soon as they got on the road, free for all,
Yeah.
worker went away, waved, see you later. And we just had somebody yesterday killed, St. Clair and Winona
Yeah.
Drive,
Yeah.
a garbage truck, like that's just. And that doesn't have anything to do with sound, but it has to do with safety on our roads, and we just need to change that whole dialogue. All of that needs to change, but that's asking some pretty big wheels and some pretty well-funded organizations. And I think that's why, I know we're probably going to have to wrap up soon, but when I looked at construction, automotive, even amplified sound, so the club owners and stuff, and the music people, they're all very well organized. Us, not so much,
Yeah.
And so that's where I really wanted to create so this is No More Noise Toronto. There is also a No More Noise Guelph. There could be a No More Noise
Oh,
Kingston.
good.
There could be a
Yeah.
No More Noise Chicago, so that we actually start to come together, because not every city is going to need to have the same solutions, but we need to organize and we need to equip people to be able to make a difference. And that was one of my biggest goals, is I'm going to collect the data. I'm going to depute as much as I can, but it has to be bigger than me, and people need to show up. We are a silent majority
Yeah, that's the
that
thing.
needs to
We need to
find
be more
our
organized.
voice.
Yeah. I was thinking
And
when
so that,
they opened the docks there up on by Lakeshore years ago, and the people on the island complained about the amount of noise that came from that island just from a distance. I
oh
remember
yeah,
that they fought that in courts. I don't know what happened, but it was ridiculous. Like it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
yeah,
This the big entertainment assembly.
yeah.
So I got about 5 minutes left. So I was gonna say, I was thinking, you have the lights out Toronto. I'd love to see that no noise Toronto for like for one evening or one day, that would open up people's eyes and their ears as well.
Would.
Yeah,
Yes, it
besides
would.
makes
Yes,
people,
it
if they're
would.
onto the green economy and all that, and just the whole recognizing what this is the obvious. This isn't the obvious. Like this is I've been battling this for years since a kid growing up. You're in no, I didn't even know I had low frequency until you're in the military, and then then I explain. They put you this massive testing, like big time, in boots and oh, it's nuts. But the thing is, and they teach you how to tune things out. So you learn how to fine tune things out of your system that'll affect you in a certain way. They actually teach you that you can do body language when you get certain noises, like if you're walking or whatever. You can do certain things with your body and move in a certain ways to dampen the noise affecting your system, which is kind of neat, you know.
Somebody was telling me that if you hum, that
Yes.
creates a frequency or
Yep.
something in your ears that can block out certain things. So I was like,
Yep.
okay, so let's just go around humming all the time.
Yeah, that's
No.
right. All the people walking down on your lake humming away. I'm damping the noise, you know. Here comes the noise. Here comes the noise to an area. I'll start humming all. Yeah, just things like that you can do. Even like when you're cold outside of the bus stop, you sing when you sing within your system, like sing a song in your system, you keep warm all the time. You know, just
Mm,
like that, little
yeah,
things. Yeah. But nature's
yeah.
my biggest thing for. I learned. I had an interview on my it's on a different website. It's on the Ward 20 website, different the candidates. I had an interview with I'm going to put it on the cruising Phillips. It's with Trevor Sutton. We did an interview at Bluffers Park. And then in the interview, it's like an hour, it's like about an hour. In the interview, you can hear the birds in the background. We're talking about it's so cool. Like it's just people are walking by, we're just having a casual talk, interviewing and talking about the candidates. And then we hear we can hear a lark, we can hear a blue jay in the distance. Like, it was so quiet, it was so nice, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish you could have that
Yeah.
all the time, you know.
Well, we're supposed to be a city within a park, but we're
Yes,
not.
you're not,
We're
no.
racetracks within a park, and we are racetracks within the city, you know, and that's just where I think we can come. I think this is the opportunity. So January 11th
Mhm.
is when people can warm a seat at the committee meeting. Some people can depute. I'm going to be doing email templates beforehand so that people can send in emails, but then everything gets voted on in the first week of February at City Hall.
Okay, good.
So this is the window that we have to make a difference. Once this is done, I'm interested in looking at noise from a federal, provincial level, maybe
Yeah.
doing a no noise day or something like that, you know,
Have you done
because
like
the fight won't be over. The bylaw review
yeah.
will not be enough to address the issues.
Have you thought about like doing videos, like showing like when you go for the enjoying your life, like hey, this is what is before noise and after noise. Let people see visually as well, like just for examples, you know. If you need me to do any video for you for doing that, I'll love to do it. You know, make a video and just give it to you, and you can do whatever you want with it. Just say this is what happens during traffic, during rush hour, noise, non-noise, you know, peaceful
Mm,
talking, people's reactions. You know, when you see you can have like videotape people's reaction when they're walking by. So you're gonna ask for permission and see how the reaction with either the noise or construction. And showing a video of people walking in the park, the big difference, and people see that. I find the visual with some of the cities, with city, especially city, not the city council, but even government, visuals help a big time for that, you know. So,
absolutely. A picture tells 1,000 stories,
oh yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will have 3 to 5 minutes for my deputation. So it's going
Oh,
to be really short and sweet, right? I mean, boy, you have
I'll
to
do it.
hit that
I'll do a
home.
deputation. Give you 10 more minutes.
Give it to me. I need it. I need the
That's so
time.
cool.
I want to depute twice. I want to depute once for my
Oh
story.
yeah, there's been people on twice. I've seen people go on two or three, at least twice for sure during
Good,
deputation.
because I want to do one on behalf of No More Noise and one on my story because they're both very different.
Yeah, I
They're
saw
the
with the young girl with you know Robert Richardson. Have you met
Yeah,
her? Yeah. Well,
yeah.
she did. She during the deputation, they had one guy came on. He was actually against it, but he came on twice, right? He just wore a different tie, but he was on twice. So if he can come on, you know, you can do it twice, whatever. You're in between maybe a certain time frame or whatever, not right after the other.
Sure
So,
hope so. Let's
so
see.
anyways, we got 1 minute left. So all your stuff's on your website, and you can get information.
No more noise Toronto.com.
Okay, and what important dates are January 11th, and also
The first week of February 6th, 7th, and 8th is when City Council is going to be voting on everything. So if you come to no more noise Toronto.com, sign up for my newsletter. That is the best way to get all the information, to keep informed, and to find your voice so that we can have a better sounding Toronto and all sleep better at night.
I got 1 minute left before I get cut off. So we'll say thank you so much, Ingrid. I've been looking forward to Ingrid for a long time. Noise is a big thing for me, especially big time. I saw your plateau, and I'm gonna promote you. I'll put a link to your. I'll send you a copy of the videos. You can do whatever you want with it. And if you need me for any videotaping, for any, let me know. I'm glad to do it. You know, and it's great. Yeah,
Awesome.
you're amazing. You're
So much,
amazing.
Phil.
You're amazing, lady, and I love what your niche. And then this is you're setting a precedent right now. You're gonna get cut off soon. You're setting a precedent. Have a good weekend. Thank you so much for just sharing that with us. You know, and
Thank
now
you, Phil, for all you do.
you had more time with me than the other one.
Thanks so much. You take care. I
We'll come
appreciate
back and do an
all you
update.
do.
We'll come back and update next year and do an update what's going on with that, you know, and
Yeah,
see. Yeah,
that
we'll
sounds
do a
great.
program. just do a progress. Let's do it. So have a good weekend, Ingrid, and
You
just
too.
remain
Sleep
quiet.
well.
Yeah, I will. I will. I'll just end it now. So.